My guest today first appeared on television at the tender age of 5 years old. Stay tuned to hear the rest of the story.
He's a Florida witch with something to say. Your friendly old sage with a teddy bear face. The Alexian Show. The magic's on its way. He's all set to play, so let's not delay. Welcome to Alexian Show.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alexian, and joining me today is my co-host, Miss Mary. Hey, Mary.
Hello, everyone.
Now, I know everybody out there that's used to watching the show is already going, Mary? Who's Mary? Where's Draken?
Who is that?
Who that? Who that? All right, so I want to explain what's going on. So, unfortunately, Draken lives in Springfield, Missouri, and earlier last week, a tornado came through her neighborhood, and she did have a little bit of minor house damage, but thankfully it did not hit her directly. So she's okay. She's all right. But it took out the electricity, and she's not had electricity all week long. So we had to find an understudy, a stand-in, and guess who came to my rescue? I don't know which side you're on. My cousin, Mary. Yes. Mary is a big button lady. She is a big radio producer and radio personality. If anybody is in Alabama, you know her well, maybe even from North Carolina as well.
Yes, I guess that comes with the territory of being nicknamed Mouth of the South when I was little.
Well, that was in Florida.
Alexian and I have been knowing each other since 1971.
Shortly after you were born.
Yes. My mother used to tell this story that I used to run around and Doug was, I'm sorry, Alexian. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I'm Doug. I'm Alexian. I'm Yahoo. I'll answer to anything.
Alexian was in charge of me, and apparently I was something to chase after. I think I gave you the run.
You still are, honey. You still are. You're just a little slower now than you used to be.
Yeah, age does that to you.
Well, I'm happy to have you here for show 15. I cannot believe that we're already on show 15. Before we go any further, if you're looking at this and saying, oh, I want to watch this, but I don't have time, I have a suggestion for you. Why not listen while you're showering or even while you're driving to work? Don't watch it. Keep your eyes on the road, but you can listen to the show and fit our show into your day. As usual, I have some analytics to share, and I was so excited about this because we passed 15,000 followers, or 14,000 followers last show. And I was expecting 15, and we got it. And then I was thinking we might make it to 16,000 before the next show. Guess what?
What?
We gained 3,100 subscribers. We are over 17,100 subscribers now and growing rapidly. I don't know what is happening.
Oh my.
But it's blowing up. India again took the #1 spot for viewers. I guess people in India love us. Hi, India. Namaste. We love you guys. And USA came in second.
Okay.
And the UK came in third place. And we love everybody that watches the show. We love everybody, period. But our viewers are extra special to you.
And I just want to say, I am so proud of you, Alexian.
How's that?
You just have taken this platform and really given a voice to people. whether they're watching live or on replay. And I'm just very proud of what you are accomplishing and giving people a voice. And I'm just very, very proud of you.
Well, that's what it's about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping each other out and giving people a platform to speak and to share love.
Mm-hmm.
Very important term there. Love. No fear, no hate. Love.
Yes, absolutely.
But yes, we have people from all over the world watching the show now. But the people that are tuned in right now, we would love to know where you're tuning in from. So share now in the YouTube comments. And by the way, if you are tuning in late, hit live by the volume and stay real to win prizes.
Ooh.
You can always catch the replay later, if you're late. And we are so thankful for all the viewers. Without your continued support, the show would not be possible. So, what's new with you, Mary?
I always say this now, one day at a time until retirement. But I'm having fun. Work's going great. Teaching has been so fulfilling, and just trying to work and focus on myself, like the head, the heart, the mind, the health, just trying to, have it all working together.
Body, mind, and spirit, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I know I know you really enjoy teaching.
Yes, it's been so much fun. I really enjoy. I'm looking forward to the fall semester. So that's been great. What you been up to?
Well, I'm still throwing myself into my music production really hard. The latest Chant of the Month Club song is giving me a run for my money. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
I was blessed. 9 women came forward from Spectral and submitted their volunteer singing tracks for the Apple Love Spell chant. But there are 8 parts. So 9 times 8 equals 72 female singing tracks that I'm editing and mixing together. And I'm about halfway done, but it's taking me much, much longer than I expected. But that is my next chant of the month. And if anybody watching would like to know more about my original pagan songs and chants, get on my email list. It's called PER because, I'm a boss worshiper. I also give out a lot of free stuff on there. I won't even go through the list, but let me share this real quick. This is my website, and the red arrows pointing to that little box. It says Get Per. That's how you sign up for my newsletter. Really fast. It's quick and simple. So if you're interested in my music, get on my list and you'll be notified about the new songs coming out. The other thing that I've been working on really hard is the next show. Today is an amazing show, but next month we actually are having a concert episode. We never have music on the show because it flags, YouTube flags it. But next month, we're throwing that rule out the window, and we're actually having members of the Red Album come and do a concert here on the show live. And also, it's a fundraiser to raise more money for reproductive rights. So help us spread the word about that. That show will be on a special day, which is Saturday, June 7th at 3 p.m. That's Saturday, June 7th at 3 p.m. Mark your calendars. And remember, every dollar of profit that we pull in goes to charity. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, listen, enough about us. Let's get on with the show. But before we bring on our guest, I want to actually congratulate everyone. I'm sorry, let me show this real quick. I forgot to show this slide. Okay. That is the graphic for the Red Album, and that's the concert date, Saturday, June 7th at 2025 at 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay, but I also want to take a second and congratulate Carrie from Kansas, who won our April Arcane Treasures giveaway last month. So congrats, Carrie. There she is holding her printouts of her winnings. So she's like super pumped and excited about that. And she sent us a picture to share. All right. Today, our special guest is Selena Fox. But if you want to be a guest on our show or know someone who would be perfect, just tell them to go to alexianmusic.com/guest to apply. It's a quick and easy form. It takes less than 1 minute to fill out. It's that easy. Hey, Mary, how's the chat going?
Well, people are really chatting it up. We have people from all across watching. Alabama's in the house. Whoop, whoop. We got Temple Hill, Springfield, Oviedo, Florida, Columbus.
Yes, we know who that is.
Kansas City, Missouri. People are having fun in the chat, so I'll be watching the chat. If you have questions throughout, make sure you post them. I'll be tracking those for Alexian.
Yes, and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, word has it that each one of those actions gets you a step closer to winning the Arcane Treasures giveaway at the end of the show. So click those buttons and up your luck. And while you're at it, be a helper and share the show with your friends.
Absolutely.
On your socials and help us spread the word. So as Mary said, remember, this is an interactive show. We will have questions at the end of the interview, and Mary will be working those YouTube comments. So don't be shy. Ask your questions in the YouTube chat, and we will definitely get them to Miss Selena. All right? So let's bring on our guest.
Welcome to the Pagan Elders of Wisdom.
Tonight, we are honored to have the incredible Selena Fox joining us. Selena is a visionary leader in paganism and nature spirituality, serving as the senior minister and high priestess of Sanctuary, one of the nation's oldest pagan churches and resource centers. A lifelong advocate for religious freedom, she played a pivotal role in securing the pentacle as an approved symbol for veterans' headstones. Beyond her spiritual leadership, she is a trained psychotherapist, a passionate educator, yes, and an internationally renowned speaker with decades of interfaith work and environmental advocacy under her belt. Selena continues to inspire with her dedication to community, healing, and ecological balance. Please join me in warmly welcoming Selena Fox.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you, Alexian and Mary.
Yes, and Mary. Thank you so much. And you know, it's a special day. I don't know why it's a special day, but you know, it is a special day. It's May the 4th be with you day.
May the 4th be with you.
And we have Grogu in the house here. He's going to sit down here on my desk and make sure that we have good luck today. Oh my goodness, Selena, I cannot tell you how sincerely excited I am to just even talk to you finally after all of these decades. You've had an impression and on my own personal path as a pagan Wiccan. And I first saw you actually back when I first started studying Wicca. My teacher said, I have a movie I want you to watch today. And I went to their apartment and I sat down and they put in this tape and my eyes got really wide because it was The Occult Experience. That's where I first saw you.
Well, and I have good memories of that film and was very thankful to be part of a documentary that actually got International Film Award that really shows diversity regarding consciousness exploration and spiritual practices. There really needs to be more education about ways of tapping into the powers of our mind and ways of interconnecting with nature and with the realm of the other world.
That's absolutely true. So who's this young lady?
There I am, 1984, an Australian author who was one of the prime movers of the occult experience movie, Neville Drury. And he is known for his works while he's no longer living. His works are continuing to be used in academic settings as well as in the popular realm. A lot of studies of shamanism, multicultural, magical ways. And he and Frank Hyman's, a very well-known film director on the world stage, also from Australia, decided to do this documentary and really taking a look at consciousness studies and practices in different places in the world.
It was an amazing movie. And in fact, we still use that movie as part of our coven training to this day. It's a really good film to get, like you said, a cross section of the occult world and what's happening out there. But, you know, you have to tell the story, because the scene with you and everyone at Circle Sanctuary was just so beautiful, because it started snowing. And I'm not talking little snowflakes. I'm talking big, fluffy, pillow-sized snowflakes are coming down. Tell us the story.
Well, there were many people interviewed for the film, and there was an initial reaching out, doing interviews, and that's pretty common in the realm of documentary filmmaking. And we made the final cut in terms of places that were being selected to be featured in this documentary. I had a small group of people that met at our land, which is Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve. We're in the driftless bioregion of southwestern Wisconsin, USA. And we would meet together for Sabbaths and full moons. And we got the land in 1983. And so 1984, when this film was being made, we were still fairly new to the land. And one of the things that we do in our own practices is connect with the spirit of the land, as well as dimensions of human experience that had been on the land before. And we had some understanding that it had been used by people before European contact. And not only myself, but other people in our community have multi-ethnic, multiracial, multicultural backgrounds. We thought it was very important, as we developed Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve as a sacred site serving pagans worldwide, with our networking and other services, that we really needed to pay respects to the spirits of the land, as well as to the ancient ones that had that as their home before we did. We were all ready for the filming, and a couple of our friends who are dairy farmers at the time, and of course, Wisconsin, for those of you who know the USA, know that we are a dairy state. So cows and cheese and milk, big things. So they made arrangements to have the cows on their farm being milked so that they could come down and be part of a ceremony in which we were dedicating a naturally occurring mound and our stone circle there for planetary healing. So they got that arranged. They came down. There were three of us living at Circle Sanctuary land at the time. Jim Allen, who had helped me start Circle Sanctuary, and we were well known as a a pagan folk singing duo in the 1970s. And then Dennis Carpenter, who is my partner now, was working with publications that we were doing. So we are all ready to go and do our ceremony. In comes the film crew, in comes Neville, in comes the director. And we come into the kitchen, and the director and Neville are there with me. And we said, well, we're all ready. We're going to go up and do our ceremony. And the director says, well, there's no snow here. I said, okay. Yeah, there's no snow here right now, but we're all ready to do the ceremony. Well, we'll just come back later when it snows. They said, well, we're going to go do our ceremony. I had no idea how prominent of a director he was. And he was kind of grumbling, and Neville was sitting there going, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this? And then the director says, okay, all right, we'll go ahead and we'll do the filming without snow. A few moments afterwards, the sky opened up and the snow started coming down. The Australian film crew had not seen snow before, and they were outside getting their equipment and just going wild. So we had a few moments of pandemonium as the Australians were relishing the snow coming down. And we went ahead and started production of the film. There was various shots of us getting ready, and then we're doing the ritual and we're processing up to our mound. And those who have come to Circle Sanctuary in the 21st century will recognize that our stone circle has a lot more stones on it now than it had more than 40 years ago when we first started creating it. And the piece really was a very good reflection of connecting with nature in sacred ways. And we did an honoring of Native people as part of our work. And since that film was created, our relationships with some of the tribal nations, not only in Wisconsin, but in other parts of North America, Central America, and South America, has continued to expand.
It's beautiful.
Well, we finished the filming for that day. We're back at the Circle Sanctuary farmhouse, and bidding farewell to the film team. They were going to come back the next day and do some more filming. And we had a big sigh of relief. Okay, it all happened. And then our dairy farmer friends were able to depart and get back to their farm. And so the next day, the film crew and the director and Neville show back up. And they said, now there is something very peculiar yesterday. After we left Circle Sanctuary land and drove to the local village where we were staying, that valley where you all are located is the only place that snowed. I said, well, you made the right choice by filming what we were doing, and Mother Nature provided.
That's right. That's right. Wouldn't be the first time I've seen things like that happen. That's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it. And if you haven't seen the occult experience, treat yourself to it. There's some scary sections to me, but actually that's well, I won't even say which one.
Well, let's put it this way. When you get into the realm of what some people call supernatural or paranormal, I actually think that working with our intuitive abilities is part of the normal way of being. We just need to have more widespread understanding of how to tap into the powers of our mind. Not everybody has a well-being approach, and some find that delving into shadow stuff as part of working through sometimes some traumas from earlier in life can be helpful. I'm a psychotherapist and a counselor as part of my spiritual work. And I know it is important to delve deep into ourselves as we self-actualize, as we grow and develop. But it's best not to get stuck in the excrement of our psyches, and some relish in it. Mother Nature has some um, big birds who have something called the turkey vultures. Some people call them buzzards. That's technically another bird completely. However, but when we see the turkey vultures coming over a ceremony, we'll say, oh, they are here to help release what we no longer have that serves. So yes, Mother Nature's cleanup crew. So you will see a variety of people working with what you might call psychic energies in some ways that you might find fun, and in some ways you might find scary. In fact,
It is truly the full spectrum, that movie. It
absolutely.
truly is.
And
And
when
yours,
on videotape, it actually was in the horror section of supermarkets for rental back in the 80s. But actually, a number of people that we know who are part of the pagan realm, including the Ferraras, they're in there. There's some really amazing things, as well as some magical pagan people from Ireland and Australia.
that's right. I'm friends with some of them. Yeah. Well, that was amazing. And that segment that you guys are in with those snowflakes, it is just the most beautiful part of that whole film. So let's move on. How did you first get involved in paganism?
I didn't know to call it paganism, but from a very early age, I had strong resonance with the natural world. I grew up in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., and I would spend time outdoors connecting with the various trees and other plants on the property, tuning into the birds. I had dreams that had what some people might call mystical dimensions to them. I had my first out-of-body experience when I was very young, and experienced myself swirling around my household, my child home, and then finding myself back in the body. Had some precognitive dreams. So for myself, I saw all of this as part of natural ways of connecting with life and the world. And from an earliest age, I identified with the word witch in a very positive sense, had a sense of witch and witchiness being something that helped bring healing and joy and well-being to the world, to individuals as well as the world as a whole. When I entered public school, I began to realize that some of my ways of perceiving things were not shared by others. And then I became more aware of being selective in some of these intuitive dimensions that I had kind of hardwired in. So I've capitalized the word nature throughout my life. And to me, nature is that interconnecting sacred source that's within us and all around us. It's not only here on planet Earth, but in the cosmos. And with this being Star Wars Day, certainly some of the mythic dimensions of that film series and those stories really harken back to ancient wisdom of nature traditions. So I was what you might call kind of a spontaneous pagan. It was when I was a student at the College of William and Mary, an undergraduate, that I got the idea of actually experiencing springtime by doing a rite of spring with the classics department. And I was not only part of the Senior Honor Society, Eta Sigma Phi, the Classics Honor Society, but I founded the Classics Club for people whose grade point average wasn't enough to get them into the Honor Society. And I thought, instead of just discussing ancient Greek and ancient Roman literature and culture over tea, which is something that had been done at my college campus since the 1600s, I thought we ought to enact a rite of spring.
I
And
love
the
it.
whole college, for the professors and people as undergraduates and graduate students all thought, oh, what a fine idea. So one spring day, and this was early 1970s, we are out on the campus. We have downed our togas and tunics and ivy in our hair, a tambourine I carried, and the Dionysian wand, the Therses. And we did ecstatic dance and called on Dionysus, called on Mother Earth, had ecstatic experiences. It was a lot of fun. But when you call the ancient ones, be prepared when they show up. And from that moment, my consciousness shifted. I linked into something very ancient and realized I was on the priestess path.
Wow. Wow. I was raised on a farm, so I understand that whole connection to nature. For me, it was like I didn't belong, I was different. And then it wasn't until I discovered Wicca, I was like, oh, there's a name for this. It's called paganism, I'm not alone, and it was like an amazing experience for me when I discovered that there were other people like me.
Well,
And
and I graduated from the College of William and Mary. My basic undergraduate work was in psychology, and then I went on and did some graduate work also in psychology. But I've had this love of classics throughout my life, and really came to understand that there are some old ways that are continued to survive. My first job after graduating from the College of William and Mary was working on an archaeological dig of a colonial tavern in Hampton Roads. And I got to work in the lab and putting together broken wine glass and bits of pottery from this tavern dump site. Well, the person who was in charge of the lab was a hereditary witch with Prussian origins. And we discovered that we shared common beliefs and practices. And I was part of that group for a time. It was all women's group. It was hedge witchery rather than per se a feminist coven. We met under the moon, and that's when I realized there are other people that have had these ancient ways awakened in new forms. And a few years after that is when I helped birth Circle Sanctuary, 1974. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary of the founding, founded at Samhain, 1974. And it's Beltane weekend for us. This is our 50th Beltane that we put on.
amazing. Now, on that subject, what inspired you? I mean, you said you got the land back in like 83, I think you said.
Correct.
What
Yeah.
inspired you to form Circle Sanctuary in like 1995, right?
Well, in 95 was when we started our cemetery, and 83 we got the land, and in 74 is when I started Circle
Oh,
Sanctuary. And
74.
yeah,
Okay.
and part of how that came, I started encountering people who were practicing different forms of magic and paganism and the craft. People into druidry and heathenry, animism, shamanism. But there was still a lot of misunderstanding in the world as a whole and in society in the USA in particular. And it really, I had the inspiration come to find ways to bring people together in safe and natural settings, not only to connect with each other, learn from each other, support each other, but really deepen our connection with the natural world. So that's how Circle Sanctuary got started. And in 74, started Circle Sanctuary. And then we got our land in 83. In 1980, started the Pagan Spirit Gathering, which is one of the oldest and largest of the summer solstice celebrations in the USA. And there I am at Pagan Spirit Gathering next to an altar. I just had finished the summer solstice ritual. And one of the amazing things that happened with networking pagans of many paths in the pre-digital age is for many people being able to come together in community and acknowledge the diversity, but to find some common ways of working together, that was transformative for everyone. And some people are from British traditional Wiccan traditions that had different dimensions of privacy and secrecy to them. Some were part of solo hedge witchery paths. Some were part of a self-styled path. And one of the great things that has happened within the Pagan Spirit Gathering community is we found ways of creating this international, multicultural, multilingual, celebratory community that joins together at solstice time. I have since traced some ancestral origins to my Swedish ancestors on my father's side, and recognize that amongst Swedish practitioners, Midsummer, yes, there's a movie. We have nothing to do with what happened in that movie. Also a horror film. No, the Midsummer celebration is alive and well in Sweden. It's a national holiday. And yes, people dance around a midsummer pole and take time off. But where do they celebrate? They go into a natural area. So as I've traced my own roots with different cultures, and I am an American, a patchwork quilt of different ancestral connections, I've come to understand not only the rich diversity of all of these old practices that are being kept alive in folk traditions in the present day, but the common ground that we all have of going into natural areas, of having fun as part of our celebration of nature.
Yes. Yes. Well, being raised a Baptist, doesn't it say in the Bible, make a joyful noise unto the Lord?
Well, yes, I was raised fundamentalist Baptist and was in a form of the Baptist religion that did not permit dancing. But I always loved to dance, and a form of dancing that I do, which is a kind of trance dancing, is twirling. Now, the dervishes, who are coming from Sufi traditions and Muslim traditions from the Middle East, do something similar. My form of twirling, though, my hands are moving in many directions, and I wear all sorts of different outfits, not the white garments that are part of that tradition. So I've been twirling since I could walk as part of a spiritual practice. And from time to time at interreligious gatherings, I've even done it as part of ceremonies and have talked about the power of moving body in harmony with our thoughts, our feelings, our energies, and our spirit. And to me, the five-pointed star, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, that is not only part of many Wiccan paths, but across many pagan traditions, is a symbol of our times. And that circle that connects the 5 points, that's community. Community of humans being together, and the circle of nature of which we're all part.
Absolutely. Now, this next question is not a hypothetical because I'm sure it's already happened to you, but being a pagan elder and leader that you are, let's say you meet a young pagan about the same age you were back when you founded Circle Sanctuary, or even younger, and they want to do what you did. They want to follow in your footsteps. What advice would you give somebody who wants to aspire to follow in your footsteps?
First thing is develop a daily spiritual practice. Find a way that works for you, that connects you with, whether you call it spirit, the divine within, the unity of God, goddess, or great spirit. You know, it goes by many different names, but find a spiritual practice. For me, it's paying attention to my dreams upon awaking, honoring the sacred at a home shrine that I tend on a daily basis, and then going out on my front porch and greeting the day. Now, those three aspects are important to my own practice. And I also do journaling, and I find that's a really good way of taking an account of what I'm experiencing, giving it form, and allowing those understandings to be integrated within myself. In addition to spiritual practice, is to have education that goes deep in some subject matters, but also has a broad dimension where you're getting information not just from one source, one teacher, but to be aware there are multiple paths and traditions. Not saying delve deep in 5 traditions all at once. No, that can be chaotic and confusing, but find a path, explore that, but also allow yourself to tap into teachings by others. And the third thing I'd recommend is make sure that you have a practice that allows you to spend time in natural areas. And what I mean by a natural area, it could be a public park if you're in an urban environment. It could be out in a forest if you're in a more rural environment. But essentially go into some natural location where humans are in the minority. Now, I grew up in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area where there's just lots of humans there, but there's also a lot of green space. And so regardless of whether you live in a city or a suburbs, a small town, in a farming community, or out in the wilds, be able to find ways to go into a natural environment and take time to listen, to connect, be respectful, and listen and connect. Take some time to get off of your screen and into the green.
Yes.
Is one of my favorite slogans. I helped birth that a number of years ago, as increasingly as part of our contemporary life, being on a screen connects us, and that it has wonderful things. I'm so thankful for being here on the Alexian Show. But to balance that, it's kind of the old school. Go out and be in nature as our ancestors did.
Get in the dirt, pull up a carrot and eat it with the dirt on it. That's what I used to do when I was a kid. Nowadays, I raise orchids. So I have hundreds of orchids in the backyard. Victor and I have created this little sanctuary in the middle of a suburb of Orlando, and it's very natural. And people just come. I love watching people come to our place. They come into the house or they go out into the backyard, and you just wait for it. And they exhale. You know, there's just this release. You can see it in their body language. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Okay, so being pagan, sometimes we get some pretty crazy comments thrown at us or at our way. What's some of the most humorous or outlandish comments or questions you've ever received?
Well, I'm going to try not to laugh too much. One of the things about doing social media, and if you have a post that goes viral, I put up our maypole dance from last year on Instagram, and it's got millions of views. Well, and lots of appreciation. I appreciate the appreciation.
Mhm.
But clearly it got pushed out to some people who either saw the Midsummer horror film and thought that we were about ready to do something nefarious, or who just found it being too wild, right? You know, basically activated what you might call some recycled Puritans. I mean, clearly there was a
Yeah.
period of time, if you know your UK and American history, yes, there was a maypole up in Massachusetts, and the Puritans didn't like the Marymount community and ended up shutting it down and cutting down their giant maypole. Well, there the Puritans cut down maypoles all over what's now known as the UK. But with Charles II, when he came back, Mayday came back as well. So there are some people who are choosing to what I call characterize us as somehow religiously incorrect. And I do think one of the funniest comments that I made in response to, you don't worship any God. And I go, oh, we have lots of gods. And, and I do think some people see and hear the word pagan. And let's face it, there is more than 1,600 years of bad PR around the witch word and the pagan word and the druid word and the heathen word. And too often we are othered. We are lied about. People are threatened by our freedom loving, our joy in living, some of our dancing and prancing and bringing in the spring. That's threatening to some people. Okay, I get it. Then don't tune into what we're doing. But instead of just stereotyping us and saying we need to be exterminated. And so I can kind of smile and make some jokes about the comment of, well, you're pagan, you don't worship God. No, we worship many gods and goddesses, and the divine has many. And I do think there continues to be some misunderstanding about that word. And yes, the Roman paganism and the Roman state, where church and state were one, did some pretty horrible things to people. And when you have church and state combined, that can be really difficult and challenging and dangerous for people. I'm descended not only from people who were indigenous that were on this land before the Europeans came, but from a number of Europeans who came to what's now known as the United States of America because they were being persecuted for their beliefs. So I descended from Roman Catholics who had been persecuted, Quakers or Society of Friends, Anabaptists, Sabbatarians. I'm actually descended from a number of what I would call religious innovators that helped birth America. And I am committed to, with my pagan networking, helping to dispel the misinformation about nature spirituality as a whole, pagans and druids and heathens and Wiccans and other forms of contemporary nature religion practitioners in particular. And I do think if there's more opportunities to recognize the common ground, that our commitment to upholding human rights, of working together, not only in good ways with other humans, but with the whole natural world, I think there'd be a lot more understanding. However, the Lady Liberty League, which is one of the things that Circle Sanctuary sponsors, has been involved in dispelling the misconceptions and working to uphold religious freedom for pagans of many paths for the past 40 years. And yes, there have been direct attacks on religious freedom, sometimes in a very large way, sometimes in a very localized way. And I'll just say, if any of our viewers live or later encounter some discrimination, misinformation, harassment regarding pagan practices, please contact us LLL@circlesanctuary.org, or you can go to the Circle Sanctuary website and look under Lady Liberty League. And we have a form that you can fill out. You can put in the details, and then we'll get back to you and hopefully come up with some strategies to create better understanding and to dispel the hate and the misunderstanding.
Yeah. I always say when you focus on your similarities, you're begetting love. And when you focus on your differences, you're begetting fear, which leads to hate and anger, you know. So find common ground.
Yeah, we need more love in the world.
More love.
And I really do think at this belting time when we're doing this episode, yeah, I know a lot of people celebrate April 30th and May 1st in the Northern Hemisphere, but we do the time release Beltane. We celebrate for multiple days and nights, and it's all about renewal and life. But it's also about having fun to welcome in the spring. We need more fun. We need more love. We need more joy in our lives, regardless of what our spiritual, religious, and or philosophical identity might be.
Yeah. Yes. And the seasons, as the moon tides are tides. They're tides. It's not one day. It's a whole season, right? So yeah. All right. That was beautiful. All right, share with us a couple of funny things that's happened at some of these pagan festivals and events that you've hosted. I'm sure you have many stories. Just share one or two with us.
This one's from way back in the day. This was pre-internet, and it was me going forth into a coven in Iowa. And back before there was internet connectivity, there was opportunities to network through postal mail. Well, this family reached out to us and said, we have children and we'd like to have a baby blessing. Will you come to Iowa? It was the Coven of the Mirror. So I and some other people from Circle Sanctuary went to the Coven of the Mirror, Covenstead, in suburban, small city in Iowa, very rural and small town. And they were involved in traditional British Wiccan traditions. So they're working with athame and a number of other sacred tools. We have the Sabbath cakes they've had all together. They have the whole altar all laid out, and we're getting ready to cast the circle. We're all out there. Now, they were in suburbia, so there are neighbors and stuff around, but, we didn't see anybody. We're out there in the backyard. We're in our regalia, in our robes, and I'm guiding the ceremony. And the members of the coven have their athames up, and we go and we start casting the circle, and all these athames come out as we start invoking the directions, and all of a sudden we see neighbors pop up and scurry away. Well, in the midst of the neighborhood coming out to the neighbors as a witchcraft coven doing a baby blessing, the family dog made off with the Sabbath cakes. So all I can say, my takeaways from that particular ceremony was, have a conversation with whoever is hosting a ceremony, find out about the neighborhood and how much they're aware of what one's spiritual identity and practices are. And if there are household companion creatures, put the Sabbath cakes away from confiscation.
Yeah, we're known as that house on that street where we are. And we've only done a couple of rituals in the backyard, but we do them very quietly as not to disturb the neighbors. But, we have had from time to time dragons, smokers within our coven, and they will go out after circle in their robes and have a cigarette or whatever, and the neighbors will see. So the word got out. Our direct neighbors, we live in a cul-de-sac, and our direct neighbors are beautiful, wonderful people, and they all know, and they're fine with it. But several streets over, we've heard whispers come back about that house, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's nothing. We're just celebrating the seasons or worshiping the gods. It ain't no big deal.
Well, back in the 80s, when we first started our work with Circle Sanctuary Land, we decided to have an open house at our Lunasa, which we
Wow.
call the Green Spirit Festival. And we invited the local community to come and observe the ceremony, because there had been some people spreading misinformation about us.
There
And
you
we
go.
really felt the best way to address that not was to hunker down, but instead to be open. And as a result of that, it really improved understanding in the local area. I knew things were really improving when in 1990, at the 20th anniversary of Earth Day, and I was one of the many people that helped birth Earth Day back in 1970, that the village president of the local rural village nearby invited me to address their youth about environmental actions. And I thought, okay, I think they get it, that we love nature and we're about being in harmony, not only with other humans around here, but with the whole natural world.
That's right. Just a quick question. What's your personal go-to system of divination?
I use dreams more than any
Ooh.
other form of divination, and have had that since I was a very young child. And sometimes I get things quite specific in a dream, including I was guided to the land that we now have as our Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve. When it came up on the market, I had a dream and I saw myself on the land. I went to our office. We had a small office in the nearby village of Mount Horeb at the time, back in the 80s. And I said, well, I had this dream. I think there's some land that's come up for sale. Anybody here know anything about it? And a part-time worker who is only with us for a few weeks that summer to help out with some graphic arts work said, I know a place. It turned out to be the place. So I think it's really important to cultivate a relationship with our dream life, in addition to divination work that we do in our waking. I guess waking can take a lot of different forms, but in our waking life. And one of the great things about divination is that there are different systems. Get good with at least one. And I also suggest learn at least 3 different types of divination. So for me, dream divination, tarot, and oracle card divination is another important form. And I also pay attention to what some people would call omens, being able to pay attention to the synchronicities and the serendipities that happen in our lives.
Yeah, and they happen all the time, don't they? For me, I am a dreamer as well. I do a lot of work in my dreams. I write songs in my dreams. I have premonitions in my dreams that have come true. And over the years, I've learned to tell the difference between a dream and a premonition. The premonitions are always very real in full color, and there's an emotional aspect to it that I'm more connected to it. I also do scrying. Like, there's a joke, but it's true. I once scried in a plate of Parmesan at the Olive Garden, and it was very successful. I can trance out into any pattern that you put in front of me. And then also the tarot. Yeah, those are my 3 go-tos. So Selena is donating a free full 1 hour Zoom call for the Arcane Treasures giveaway at the end of the show. And you can enter right now to win that 1 hour Zoom call with Selena by typing hashtag Yoda into the YouTube comments. That's hashtag Yoda into the YouTube comments. Do it now to enter, and we'll run the actual giveaway at the end of the show. It's a lot of fun. So that gives you a little preemptive warning. Get your entry in now. Also, remember that this is an interactive show. Type your questions into the chat. Mary's still working that chat, keeping you guys entertained and putting your comments up on the screen, but she's also holding back all your questions as well. Now, you were saying that the other day that it's the 30th year of the Pagan National Cemetery.
Yes, Circle Cemetery is 20 acres in size. Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve is 200 acres. So a tenth of the land is a cemetery. We began the cemetery back in 1995. And initially we were scattering cremated human remains. And then in 2010, we expanded the size of the cemetery, which previously was just a ridge top, and we didn't need any special governmental processing to do that. We expanded it to 20 acres in order to do full body burials, natural burials. Green burial is something that's very ancient. It wasn't called green burial back in the Paleolithic, but essentially humans return the bodies of their loved ones after death into the earth, often putting flowers, sometimes using red ochre and other natural substances. And we know a lot about ancient peoples when grave sites have been discovered. Well, we started our Circle Cemetery in 1995 in order to have sacred land where pagan remains could be, and it is a national cemetery. And natural burial, while it's an old practice, is starting to gain momentum again. The Civil War in the USA was a very challenging time. There were so many people who died, and the practice of embalming bodies to have them shipped back to the loved ones at home came into vogue back at that time. Some people think that you have to have bodies embalmed after death, but no, that's not true. And a number of religious traditions do not have embalming, in fact, prohibit embalming. Some forms of Islam, some Native American traditions, the Baha'i faith is another one, some forms of Judaism, and some forms of paganism, and we being among those. So a green cemetery, you have an unembalmed body in a biodegradable container. It might be a shroud of linen, or it might be a wicker basket, or a cremation box of biodegradable cardboard. Most people have some kind of wooden casket or coffin, and the body and the biodegradable container go into the ground, and then the earth is put on top, it covers it up, and then decomposition happens. And it isn't 6 feet under, it's 3.5 feet under, because the active ingredients in the soil work best at shallower levels. Now, our green cemetery is unique, not only because it's really one of the first ones, not only in the US, but North America to be established, but we permit grave goods. They can't be toxic, but a number of people have chosen to put different items into the grave. I remember a young man who died tragically before his time in a car accident, had been learning to play a fiddle. And in a beautiful casket that was handcrafted by his fiddle teacher, the fiddle teacher put a fiddle that he had taught the young man on in the casket as part of that. So one of the real powerful things about not only having a pagan cemetery, but a green cemetery is it's taking the commitment to live in harmony with nature during life into the next dimension. So if we live sustainably during our lifetime, that's good for the environment. But after we die, what happens to our remains? Does it make sense to put toxic chemicals in the body and use lots of iron and cement to try to encapsulate those remains? Certainly, those are options that people chose and have chosen. But increasingly, there is an understanding that in death, we can die in a sustainable way and have our remains go back to Mother Nature. So we have been a leader in greening the end of life and greening death. We do educational projects and webinars online, in person. And I think it's really important as we think about the end of life. Yes, here we are at Beltane, but it's Samhain in half the world. And that's one of the wonderful things about paganism in its worldwide dimension. Every Sabbath has the shadow of the Sabbath 6 months later or 6 months earlier. And that dimension is also part of that Sabbath. So I encourage everyone, regardless of which hemisphere you're in, to think through what would you like to see happen after death, and as part of your dying process. Get your affairs in order no matter what age you are, and make sure you write it down, have it witnessed, and have somebody designated to carry out your wishes. So I'm thankful that we have Circle Cemetery, and that we'll be celebrating 30 years of Circle Cemetery this year, 40 years of the Lady Liberty League, and 45 years of our big summer solstice gathering called Pagan Spirit Gathering.
What a perfect segue, because look what's next. Pagan Spirit Gathering, 45th anniversary. Yes. So we're going to see a commercial about this here in just a little while. So we don't need to go into detail on that. But yes, 45 years of PSG. Amazing. Amazing. Our coven just celebrated 30 something years, 32 this year.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things about Pagan Spirit Gathering that sets it apart from some other gatherings, and we've been supporters of many types of pagan gatherings over the years, but we intentionally create a magical pagan village, and we live our values. We walk the talk at Pagan Spirit Gathering. So we collectively put the gathering on. We experience ourselves as a community living in a village in a natural environment. And so for the first time in many years, we are returning to Wisconsin, where Pagan Spirit Gathering began back as a weekend summer solstice gathering back in 1980. And we are going to the North Woods of Wisconsin. And we have three people well known to the Druidry world, Dave the Bard and Sari from England, and Christopher Hughes from Wales, that are special guest presenters, and plus lots of musicians and writers and thinkers and creators. So I'm really looking forward to getting to celebrate 45 years back in Wisconsin with this brand new venue that we'll be at in a forest.
It's amazing. Selena, you know, the world is crazy right now. How do you stay motivated and positive in such difficult times?
Well, the question you asked earlier about, for people new to the path and how do you move, spiritual practice, I think, is even more essential now than ever before. I also think having some kind of practice where one can give form to emotions and thoughts. For some people, that may be journaling, or some people find using some kind of an art therapy method, which I've used art and music therapy as part of my work in the realm of psychology, but giving form to the anxiety, to the stress, and then you can fold that up and put it in a box symbolic of letting that go. Or if you have a hearth fire built into your house, as we do, or a good way of flambeauing the thing that you've given expression to, you might rip it up and put it in a fire. That can be a way of symbolically releasing that.
It's an
So
exorcism
it's
through
a way of,
creativity too.
well,
Making music, writing a song, painting a picture of the horror, painting the horror, and then burning it. After you
yes,
spend some time with it, then burn it, right?
and then follow that up with something fun to totally
Yes.
change the vibe. And I see that music is one of the most powerful ways of helping us process um, the challenges of life and the stressors of life. Not only using music for release, and chanting is something that I do as part of my own day-to-day work. And certainly on Instagram, I share chants from time to time. And part of the reason for doing that is to encourage other people to work with voice in chanting as a way of celebrating the seasons, celebrating the moon, celebrating the cycles of life. So being able to develop some important and pleasurable connections with different pieces of music and being able to have them at the ready to play to help boost your spirit up, developing your own practices of making music, whether it be rhythms or singing, dancing, many different ways. But I do think having at least one method to release and then at least one method to move you in a happier direction can be really helpful.
Yes. What you don't want to do is sit still and complain.
You can get into a do loop that I call spiraling into the depths of the pit of despair. So we need to be aware of when our inner thoughts start turning negative. It might be anxious or angry. I'm not saying suppress the thoughts, but set a timer for yourself if you're going to let some of that go through, and then do an intervention. Don't dwell on the thoughts. Be aware of the thoughts, but then let them go, and then have a spiritual practice to clear away. Sometimes burning a stick of incense or spraying some essential oil in the air can be a way literally of changing your space without a lot of don't have to do a real long ritual to shift things. One
Oh,
of the
no.
things I like to do is play my singing bowl, and
Oh,
it's such a beautiful tone, and it just kind of ripples out. And I've used that in hospital and hospice settings where burning incense isn't going to work. If you're in a medical setting and there's oxygen tanks and all of that type of thing, being able to have some type of bell or singing bowl or other instrument that sounds a tone that just fills the air around can really help change the mood, change the energy, and clear the space.
from all the years of PSG and all the other pagan festivities and workshops and events, what's the one memory that just pops out in your mind?
Well, right now, one of those memories is seeing a double rainbow that happened during the Pagan Spirit Gathering. It was, um, we get all sorts of different weather. It's a natural gathering. It's out in a natural area. But I remember we had had quite a downpour, and as the storm passed away, people came out of their tents and then looked in the sky, and there were these beautiful rainbows. And part of our gathering includes having different encampments. And I happened to be in the encampment called the Rainbow Camp at that time. And our community is well known from its earliest days, and Circle Sanctuary from its beginnings in 1974, of being a welcoming place for people of many backgrounds, many cultures, many walks of life, different gender identities, sexual orientations. So to actually be hanging out in the Rainbow Center and the Rainbow Camp and taking a shelter there, and then the storms moving away, and to see not just one, but a double rainbow, will forever be one of the cherished moments in my Pagan Spirit Gathering memories. And I do think that those of us who have strong connections with LGBTQ plus people, that this is time to reach out and give support and to celebrate the diversity and recognize that diversity has been part of humankind since humankind was born, and that we need to find good ways to support each other and to recognize, if we're practicing a nature-oriented form of spirituality and or philosophy and or religion, well, nature is diverse. And part of why nature is so beautiful is that interconnectedness and the diverse, rich tapestry that is nature, not only here on planet Earth, but in that whole cosmos. So rainbows have always been important natural omens for me, and to actually have that at a Pagan Spirit Gathering, as I was with people at the Rainbow Center, is one of my favorite memories.
That's beautiful memory. Absolutely beautiful. Now, this photo here is Beltane 2020. So brings up the question, how did COVID affect PSG, and what changes or shifts had to be taken to deal with the pandemic that happened?
Well, yes, and in that particular photo, you will see two rhythm instruments, and you'll see a forked wand. That's a sistrum. That I use different types of sistrum instruments. Has its roots in ancient Egypt as a rhythm instrument used for Bast and Hathor and Isis and other forms of divine. And the other hand, you'll see a tambourine. And that tambourine I used in my very first pagan ritual. Yes, the pagan rite of spring out at the College of William and Mary. I still have it after all these years. And awesome. Why I am celebrating with not one, but two rhythm instruments in 2020, I thought it was really important to continue the tradition, but to change it up to make it online. And so a double joy going into the world, even as people were dealing with the horrific impact of COVID on humankind and in the world as a whole. So with Pagan Spirit Gathering, we pivoted and had that go online in 2020 and 2021. We've been doing full moon circles since Circle Sanctuary began back in 1974. And we decided to take our full moon circles, which had a very different format when we were in person. We were around an actual fire outside with the full moon overhead, drawing down the moon. I mean, we took that online, and I will just say that we're continuing to do our full moon circles online on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. Every month, they're free. They are live streamed. We have people from our community, not only ministers and leaders within our community, but community members, and they're free. They're open to the public. And why we do that is as a way for people to be able to celebrate the moon in community, even if they're in a place where they can't be out about their spirituality.
Yeah.
So, well, over the years, part of what we've been doing is finding ways to pivot and expand the kind of work that we're doing to connect pagans of many paths together. I'm really glad that COVID is behind us in many ways, but there are people with long COVID, and there are still impacts of what happened as a result of COVID that people are still processing. And I do think it's important whenever we're dealing with a crisis, be it locally, personally, nationally, globally, that we find ways to connect with others.
Yeah.
Because by connecting with others, we are able to experience ourselves as part of a support system. And there is now even more opportunities for people to connect, to learn, to be seen and heard, to express selves. And I give thanks to the Alexian Show for being one of those forces for good within the realm of cyberspace.
Yes. Well, there I mean, I witnessed the dynamic shift myself. Everybody went online, and as a musician, I was teaching music lessons online. I made the decision to go online exclusively in January of 2010. So I was already teaching people from all over the world for 10 years, and then the COVID hit, and everybody's like, "How do you do this? How do you do this?" And I'm like, "Really? I've already been doing this for 10 years. It's easy. You click the button. It's that simple, you know." But I've seen that you're able to reach more people in more remote locations because of COVID. More and more people invested in the internet, basically, right? They were able to get an internet connection, and things are expanding and continue to expand today. So you know what that does? It's called the information age. It's called education. Education is spreading across the world into these remote locations, whether it be you want to learn about music or you want to learn about paganism and our ways, you know, or just feel connection, you know, like you said, with others. So,
I think
yeah.
it's so important to connect in three ways with others. In cyberspace, you can meet some really wonderful people that way. Of course, check things out. And just because somebody's in cyberspace doesn't mean they're going to be helpful or
Use your head.
But cyberspace, good place for connections, and face-to-face, good place for connections.
Absolutely.
That's the third inner space,
Yeah.
where regardless of where we are, we can experience ourselves as part of that great, ever evolving, expanding community of nature spirituality people that's now worldwide. And one of the big contributions of cyberspace to the building of that community are the automatic translation devices that are present.
Yes.
And I do think as one lives one's life, you have to make your own choices about who to connect with and how, but making space in your life for all three types can be really helpful. And why I mentioned the face-to-face, well, sometimes you may find it a good start to connect in cyberspace, and if the vibe seems right and the experience seems right, then you may want to go to one of these multi-traditional gatherings. And part of the reason Pagan Spirit Gathering is one of those multi-traditional gatherings that's open, yes, you do have to register in advance. That's, part of us keeping everybody safe and making sure we know who's coming. But essentially, it's a way of being able to not only connect online, but also in person and throughout the year, even though our gathering only physically happens 1 week every year at solstice time, we stay in touch. We have a Facebook group, and we share things on other social media platforms. So I really do think there's value in being able to connect with community in a variety of different ways, not just with the particular tradition you might feel most aligned with, but being aware of the rich tapestry of traditions that exist. Everything about Beltane I've done this year has had a multicultural, interreligious dimension to it. I have not only taken part in events in person and online, and I consider this one of my Beltane celebrations, but I spent time watching YouTube celebrations of Beltane in different countries around the world. And every Sabbath, I try to take some time out and see what else happening in the pagan world. And I've gone online, not only to websites and doing YouTube videos, but also going on Instagram and TikTok and a variety of other social media platforms. How are people celebrating? And yes, also checking out some of the Samhain celebrations happening in the Southern Hemisphere, and knowing that I am just one of millions of people that are celebrating around the world right now. Being part of that much larger community in the here and now, that's very uplifting. But then you add another dimension, which is the community across time. Yes, we're keeping alive some ancient ways, doing some new stuff. But those bonfires that get kindled, yes, that's very, very old. And invite into your circle not only your connection with that larger pagan community that's celebrating right now, welcoming in the spring, welcoming in the autumn, depending on where you are, or the winter time and the summertime, but that you recognize you're part of traditions that are ancient, and tapping into those ancestral traditions and ancient ones traditions can enrich the here and now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Fire connects us all, doesn't it? So you just finished up the Beltane festivities. What are you working on next, as if I didn't know?
Well, we have our full moon circle coming up in a little more than a week, so we're getting ready for that. And May in the Northern Hemisphere is a time of flowers, flower crowns, wreaths on our doors. So we're going to bring in the May with having a flowering, magic full moon circle. And of course, Pagan Spirit Gathering is continuing to unfold as we prepare. I'm doing a variety of workshops. I'm going to be teaching a brand new leadership intensive on sacred trees, creating and facilitating group rituals, and not only working with trees individually and in groves and forests, but also working with tree imagery and how to incorporate that in one's practice for community. So we have something called the Pagan Leadership Institute, started many, many years ago. And it isn't just for people that are seeking to be ordained as Circle Sanctuary ministers. Yes, we have a whole ordination program, and people can do legal weddings and other life passage ceremonies once they've gone through our program. But we bring together people from many different traditions to teach in the Pagan Leadership Institute. And part of the reason for having this special track of programming is to really encourage some sharing of information about working with small groups, medium-sized groups, and really large groups, including groups in cyberspace, and to share some best practices of having people connect with each other in ceremonies. So I'm looking forward to that. I've also been working on a whole series of what I call resilience workshops. So my husband, Dennis Carpenter, and I both have our academic and professional backgrounds in psychology. He's a retired professor emeritus from the University of Wisconsin System, professor of psychology, and I've been in the psychotherapy realm more than I've taught in colleges about psychology, but most of my work has been clinical practice. And we have put together a series of workshops that we are bringing online and in person in 2025 to help enhance resilience. And part of that enhancement of resilience is involving deepening connections and alignments with the natural world. You've probably heard of forest bathing. In Japan, they have a Japanese word for that. But part of that practice of going into a forested green space, and why that's being prescribed when there is stress and anxiety and depression and other mental health illnesses that really need to be treated. Part of the reason that's gaining popularity is it's effective. So we're going to share some ways of building resilience in ourselves and doing self-care and in natural settings, and in particular forest settings. Really,
I think Alexian got bumped off on the World Wide Web, the internet here. So we'll wait till he comes back. Just fascinating information that you've been sharing with us. I just think it's awesome. I just want to know, when is the t-shirt coming out?
We do have a t-shirt every year from Pagan Spirit Gathering, and we have a graphic artist creating an artwork that depicts our theme, and our theme this year is Sacred Forest. And for the very first time, our campground is actually mostly forest. In the past, we've always had some woodland as part of the campground venue, but we actually are going to be mostly in a forest, and we're close to a national forest, as well as a Native American reservation. So it is a very big area of forest that we're going into at a private campground. And our t-shirt actually shows a forest with light streaming through, the solstice sun, no surprise.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, you got to get your graphic artist on a t-shirt that says "off the screen into the green."
People like that. I first started debuting that a number of years pre-pandemic, and really talked about the importance of balancing our screen time with time where we just move into some other environments. And I am so thankful we have good internet now.
Yes.
And it gives me more access, and I'm able to upload things and connect with all sorts of people. But I also think as humankind increasingly becomes digitally connected, we really need to make time to be in natural areas. And and actually in the field of psychology, there's an emerging discipline called eco-psychology. And a number of studies have shown just the presence of being in a forest can be therapeutic.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was totally feeling you when you said that, off the screen and into the green, because that's one of the things that Alexian has shared with me. Like, if you get real stressed, just go outside, take in some fresh air, and then come back to it and address it. So I'll buy that T-shirt immediately.
Well, and I will let our T-shirt team know about that suggestion. I know when I did a very short Instagram reel about that, it went wild. People really loved it, and I did that for Earth Day.
Oh, okay, what a great idea!
You know, and I do think it is important to stay connected in many ways, but connected with that larger green world of which we're part. It not only can be good for us therapeutically, but by spending time in natural environments, it strengthens our awareness of what's happening with our planet, our home.
Absolutely. And I'm going to welcome back Alexian to the show.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My computer went blue screen on me. I got the blue screen of death. And now my webcam, my nice webcam isn't even working. So I'm back on a lesser webcam, but at least I'm here.
Well, spirits of land, spirits of day, we honor you to bring in the May, but be gentle with us.
Be gentle. I'm trying to open up everything again that I had open before. So we're so I don't know what I missed, but I'm gonna pick up where I left off.
I talked about sacred forest and forest bathing and being able to teach people about tree rituals as part of the pagan leadership.
Yes, you were saying how you were going to bring trees into to work with trees, So I wanted to bring up the fact that our coven's name is Twisted Oak Coven. And when we founded the coven back in '93, we actually got permission to plant a baby live oak in a local public park. Well, he's still there and he is massive now. And so we do events and rituals and things and honor him and bring him offerings all the time. And he's gotten so big that now he creates all of this shade, and the park has put picnic tables under him. So we'll actually go there and we'll have picnics and social events for the coven and the family members and the children. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
That is fabulous, just fabulous. And one of the Scottish clans that I'm descended from, the Bissett clan, has as its motto and its symbol a big old oak that's been cut down but is sprouting again. And the Latin word reverescit is actually a theme that I've not only used on a personal ancestral connection way, but to really talk about nature, religion, and paganism. Reverescit means it grows green again and again. So woven into that is renewal and rebirth. And certainly humankind needs to get out of its terrible twos, clean up its messes, and really move on and be better community members with the rest of the circle of life here on planet Earth. And that includes all the trees and the plants of different types and the creatures, but also all the beautiful ecosystems that make up this wonderful biosphere that is our home. You know, there is no planet B right now. And yes, Star Wars takes us off into some other dimensions to think about being off planet. But before we go off planet, let's make sure that we are treating this planet right so that we don't take bad practices off into other worlds. We really need to clean up our messes here, stop polluting. And if we really take time out, regardless of what our spiritual alignments might be, or even our political affiliations, really look at our home, look at our interconnectedness with each other. Let us find common ground to work together for a healthier, more peaceful planet.
Absolutely.
It is possible.
And there's a really quick question you can ask yourself. I'm going to throw this away. Where is away? Define away. There is no away. It's still here. And, you know, the elements, they don't understand borders that are human-made borders. So everything that goes away gets into the system of the Earth's systems, and it comes back to us in our water, in our air that you breathe. Yes, it's one planet. We are one people. We are one system. There is no away. So think before you throw it away.
I totally concur. And I do think with that growing awareness, we pay attention to what products we're getting, what's their packaging, where are they manufactured. There's a lot of different things to track.
Yeah.
And just making a few changes starts the momentum of moving us in a more sustainable direction.
Yes.
While beginning and after death.
Invest in alternative energies. We have solar. You know, we drive hybrid cars. Think before you throw away the plastic fork. You can put that in the dishwasher and use it again, you know, but maybe even not buy the plastic fork to begin with, right? How about we just use a regular fork, right? And wash it. So yeah, it's choices.
Absolutely.
It's all choices. So we're starting to get low on time, so I want to keep going forward. If anyone watching would like to check out more of what Selena has to offer along with Circle Sanctuary, they can hop right on over to the website, which is circlesanctuary.org. And then there's also the paganspiritgathering.org, which brings you back to Circle Sanctuary /PSG. You know, so either one of those will get you to PSG, right? And if you look now, you might be able to join them for solstice in June, right?
Yes, but
I'm gonna get up there one day. I gotta get up there.
It'd be fabulous. Well, and part of why we require pre-registration is to make sure that there's enough time to get registration materials, the pass to get in, and all of that to people. So register as soon as you can if you want to join us for summer all the event, and by June 6, 2025.
That's right. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into hosting any event, and in order for you to have a great time and be, like Selena said earlier, to be safe, you got to pre-register. You just got to do it. Don't operate on Pagan Standard Time.
Well, and know, we actually in our gathering community, we have a lot of things scheduled, so we pretty much run the gathering on time.
That's
and
awesome.
Part of that has come to make sure that the time where we're doing educational programming and concerts and rituals and all the different things that we're doing, that it's fairly divided up, and that everyone who's presenting can have their time and people can connect. So it's been what I call an ongoing social psychology experiment. We talk about these values of being in harmony with other humans, of being in harmony with nature. Can we live that in a natural environment for a week?
Yeah.
So social psychology was one of the specialties I had, and during my academic journeys over my life. And I kind of smile about, well, in a way, it is us coming together, creating community together for the week, learning from each other. Yes, we have special resource people teaching this, doing performances, and that's all wonderful. But ultimately, we're all part of a larger community, and sharing with each other is part of the experience.
Absolutely. Okay, welcome back, Mary. Thank you so much, Mary, for jumping in and covering my computer hiccup.
It is fine. We had us a good, lovely little chat.
So do we have any questions from our viewers?
Yes, we have several questions. They range from serious to fun. So Victor wants to know, you have been in so many multi-religious events. Have they all been positive experiences?
I would say overall, my experiences networking in the interfaith world have been really wonderful. I'd say in the early days of paganism showing up at international interreligious gatherings, there wasn't a full understanding. The word pagan carries some baggage, the word witch, even the word druid and heathen, there's some terminology that has had some toxification by people who are against nature religions. The first Parliament of the World's Religions Centennial rebirth had pagans fully present, sponsoring the event and showing up in the opening procession. And the good news is that with that particular institution, which was begun in 1893, and the centennial rebirth was 1993, there has increasingly been more pagan understanding and participation. That has been wonderful. But at that very first centennial rebirth of the Parliament, I was with there were several pagan groups that helped co-sponsor, and we all got to have 5 representatives all march in the opening procession. And on the main stage, Lady Olivia Robertson of the Fellowship of Isis, a Goddess Spirituality Network, a year younger than Circle Sanctuary, but Lady Olivia and I were good friends, and she was on the main stage. So Circle Sanctuary, we had somebody who was Druidic and somebody who was connected with traditional ways of a particular Native American tribe that's also pagan. I was there. We had somebody who was very much part of the Wiccan tradition, and there were 5 of us going through. We were all very colorful, individually beautiful ritual garments. And then there were several other pagan groups that were in different colors and different garments. One group was in Egyptian, Neo-Egyptian regalia. So we were part of the great color of all the world's religions coming together for this centennial rebirth. And then on the stage, Lady Olivia was the first to call out the divine feminine and called out the great goddess and called out the nature spirits. Well, of course, all of us pagans are going, yay, Lady Olivia, you're up there and you're representing us. Well, the Greek Orthodox had a meltdown and marched out. So they did not appreciate pagans being welcomed to this grand gathering. However, that has shifted over time, I'm glad to report. And over the years, that's been one of the institutions that Circle Sanctuary has supported for international interreligious collaboration. And our community, Circle Sanctuary community, has been very involved in all of them over time. And in fact, several years after that opening one, there was an assembly of religious and spiritual leaders that was held in Cape Town, South Africa, where the parliament had shifted to in 99. And I was honored to be among the religious leaders invited to that special by appointment only. They had pagans. There were 3 of us pagans that were part of the assembly of religious and spiritual leaders. And to be able to sit down with leaders from all around the world, from many of the world's religions, large ones and small ones, and to be on equal status was very powerful, not only on a personal level, but for us as a community. And I think it's essential that there be pagan participation in interreligious events and conferences. When 9/11 happened, I facilitated the interfaith memorial the day after 9/11 hit back in 2001 in the US, the terrorist attacks on the US. And I had suggested to our group that we have some type of remembrance, they said, okay, you lead it. And so most of the people in that group, which was held at a Roman Catholic monastery, were Abrahamic. They were Christian, Muslim, and Jewish. There was some Baha'i and a couple other traditions represented, but I had been accepted sufficiently within that interfaith realm to have the group comfortable with not only me showing up, but helping to facilitate at a time of national and global tragedy. And I just give that as an example. I don't usually talk about those aspects of diplomacy, but I do think it's important for pagans to know that there are a number of us who not only are involved right now, but we've been involved for decades. And I have spoken at a number of universities with interreligious events. I take part in the United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week every year, which is the first 7 days of February. And for the last 7 years, I've been part of an interfaith program at a university. And I am so thankful that now in 2025, there's even more acceptance of pagans in interreligious events. Now, that said, not everybody in the realm of religion is happy about the diversity and even wants the diversity to be highlighted or connected with. But this is what I say is we are here together as part of a human community, and we need to find ways not only to work together for a more peaceful, sustainable planet, but find ways to pray together, even if our ways of doing spiritual practice and how theologically we conceptualize that might be quite different. So I'm happy to report that things have really improved in many ways, but we still have some ways to go. And having been descended from some people who, as I mentioned before, they came to America because they really were being persecuted because there was no separation of church and state, I invite you to take another motto from this: separate church and state, separate church and state, separate church and state. We really need to make sure that our democracy, our country, makes space to uphold the principles of our founders, which really sought to have a country that had religious freedom for all.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
All right, everyone watching, have you clicked that karma button yet? You know that karma button, it's called the like button. Give it a high five, subscribe, and tap the bell for a better chance at winning the arcane treasures, which is coming right up. All right, Selena, don't go away. We'll be right back and have a little fun with you after this short sponsor break.
Are you ready to elevate your brand and connect with a dynamic and growing community? We invite pagan-minded businesses and services to sponsor our live YouTube show where your brand can shine. Visit alexianmusic.com/sponsor to explore this exciting opportunity. Imagine your logo taking center stage, just like our other esteemed sponsors. Join us in celebrating our shared passions and reach a dedicated audience. We can't wait to welcome you on board. Our sponsors for today's show are Pagan Spirit Gathering, also known as PSG. Celebrate the summer solstice and create community with nature people from across the USA and beyond. Experience the 2025 Pagan Spirit Gathering, June 15th through 22nd, at a private campground in the majestic Northwoods of Wisconsin. Live in an enchanted forest village, lovingly created and cared for by magical people of many paths. Connect with nature mystics, druids, Wiccans, witches, wizards, heathens, animists, pantheists, pagans, and other nature spirituality folk. Dance, drum, chant, and journey around the solstice fire. walk the breathtaking Midsummer Night, Thousand Candles Labyrinth. Learn pagan ways and witchy magic in inspiring workshops and sacred ceremonies. Participate in rituals, both large and small. Enjoy concerts, storytelling, chant sharing, rhythm making, and other bardic delights. Sponsored by Circle Sanctuary, the Pagan Spirit Gathering, also known as PSG, began as a small weekend summer solstice festival in 1980. Today it is one of the oldest pagan festival communities in North America. This year, during PSG's special 45th anniversary celebration, we welcome an extraordinary lineup of guest presenters from the UK. Experience the music of Dom the Bard and the creations of author and artist Kerry Lee from England. From Wales, meet Christopher Hughes, author and chief of the Anglesey Druid Order. Joining them are other amazing musicians, authors, and speakers, including Selena Fox, Black Willow Starling, Arthur Hines, Spiral Rhythm, Primal Rhythm, and more. Expand your experience with unique program activities like the Pagan Leadership Institute, family fun events, forest bathing, and more. For full details and to register, visit paganspiritgathering.org. Circle Sanctuary, sponsor of the Pagan Spirit Gathering, is a non-profit nature spirituality church founded in 1974 by Selena Fox and others. Besides PSG, Circle Sanctuary hosts festivals and events at its headquarters, the Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve, in the driftless bioregion of southwestern Wisconsin. Circle Sanctuary also sponsors monthly online full moon circle ceremonies, live-streamed via its YouTube channel, and offers a network of Circle podcasts on Speaker and other streaming platforms. Learn more at circlesanctuary.org. Don't miss this one-of-a-kind celebration. Join us at the 2025 Pagan Spirit Gathering. Celebrate, connect, transform.
Welcome back. I was notified I cut off the questions. I apologize. We have more questions. Mary, take it over.
Okay, hold on. Let me slip back over into that section. Okay, so I thought this was a very interesting question, so I'm eager to hear your answer. And this one comes from Leo. He asks, if you were not the priestess, what other career would you have possibly pursued?
Well, I had several career paths. One was being a clinical psychotherapist and a psychology professor. And I have continued in those realms, but not my main source of income. And the realm of photography. I was one of the first women to break into what was known as corporate or industrial photography back in the 1970s, and continue on with psychology and with photography as part of my life today.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So this one also comes from Leo, and it's a fun question. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Mint.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that one coming.
Well, I like chocolate too, and so often it will be mint chocolate chip. But if I had to pick one right at this moment, it would be mint ice cream.
Oh, okay. Mint chocolate chip was my dad's favorite ice cream. So I can relate on that one. I've picked up lots of those gallons of ice cream. Okay, another quick one is which element do you connect with the most? Earth, water, fire, air? Which one?
Well, I actually use the spirit element, the fifth element, because I see that as incorporating the earth, air, fire, water. And I have resonance with each of the four elements, but out of the five elements, I'm working with what I call the spirit element the most.
Okay, awesome. I'm more of a water girl myself, but okay, I could take that one. Okay. The next question comes from Sandra. She wants to know, is Circle Sanctuary a pagan church for all flavors of paganism?
I would say overall that would be correct. I mean, we do have some, I guess, shared ethics and values regarding how we connect with each other as well as the natural world. And there are some people who are engaged in some practices that aren't celebrating diversity, that might try to call themselves pagan. And so I would have to qualify that statement. It depends on the ethics and how the pagan path is structured. But we connect with a wide range of pagan paths, and not only those that are contemporary, but some pagan paths that are Reconstructionist paths, some pagan paths that are actually survivals that have managed to come into the here and now. And there are also pagan paths that you might call are blended paths. For example, Unitarian Universalism is a particular form of spiritual tradition. And there are pagans that are part of the Unitarian Universalists. We have pagan Buddhists, we have Christo-pagans, we have Jew witches, we have Sufi pagans. So in that whole hybrid dimension, we also have that kind of intertwining. And we have pagans that are practitioners of ethnic indigenous traditions from their ancestors, and they are welcome as well. Part of the reason we use nature spirituality as an umbrella term, capital N on nature, is that it's a more inclusive term and it really welcomes many different paths together. However, all that said, if somebody really has, as part of what they call their religion, hating or oppressing others, be it according to color of skin or gender identity or sexual orientation, ableism, walk of life, we cannot accommodate people who have a hate dimension to their form of religion. Our focus is to really work on love, of interconnectedness. Doesn't mean there can't be conflict and disagreement.
Right.
We really are seeking to evolve nature spirituality to bring together people of many walks of life and paths that share wanting to be part of spiritual solutions on the planet instead of toxic pollutions.
Very well said. And I'm going to go to one of the last questions here, and it's kind of on the track of religion, right? That you've been talking about. So how would you answer this to someone, like in one sentence form? And this question comes from Devin. I've had people tell me that America is a Christian country. What would you say to that? Like, if you were faced with that in one sentence, what would you tell them?
Study American history and you will find that there was no single religion in the colonial era and the revolutionary era and today. It's been diverse since its beginnings. Read Nathaniel Hawthorne's Twice Told Tales about the Marymount community. And while they didn't call themselves pagan, they had a maypole, and some of their neighbors were not happy about that. And I want to honor the first peoples that were here before the Europeans came and their contributions to the United States and how it's evolved. So it's never been a so-called Christian nation, and it is not now. And anybody trying to put that narrative out is misleading and incorrect. So let's get our facts straight. So the short thing is study your history and recognize there were a lot of people that came to this country and that were already here of diverse spiritual paths.
We're back to education, aren't we?
Awesome. Thank you for taking time to answer your questions from your fans. I appreciate the dialogue, and it's awesome to collaborate and talk with you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to have some fun now by doing our rapid fire question section. So get that little piece of paper ready. I warned you about.
I got it already.
Okay, so here we go. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? Okay, question 2. If your life story was turned into a movie, what would the title be and who would play the villain? If your life story was turned into a movie, what would the title be and who would play the villain? And last question. You're cooking for Bigfoot. What's on the menu? You're cooking for Bigfoot. What's on the menu? Okay.
Good questions.
All right, time's up. I thought you'd like that last one. All right, question 1. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Be here now.
In the moment.
Ram Dass, Richard Alpert, something that's used across spiritual traditions. Be present. And when you are present, you can connect with the source that's within you and around you.
It's so simple, yet it's so powerful. You know, it's also related to, you know, if you are, how does it go? If you are depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. But if you are at peace, you're living in the present. It's so powerful. That was Lao Tzu. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah. So amazing. If your life story was turned into a movie, what would the title be? And who would play the villain?
The title would be Nature Priestess, and the villain would be the Dementors from Harry Potter.
Ooh. That's pretty cool. I would see that movie. I would totally watch that movie. Totally. I
well,
think
as a psychotherapist,
Hollywood, are you listening?
Well, you know, the Dementors really are a depiction of depression and negative thinking. And
Sure.
One of the powerful things about the Harry Potter series and the books is really identifying that negativity and ways to dispel it. And so part of the work that I do is not only working with individuals as they work through shadow things, traumas and things, but on a social and global level, looking at the Dementors that are loose on our planet that need to be dispelled, discrimination and hate and just selfishness and greed and corruption.
Mhm.
Those all create some shadowy stuff that is better dispelled.
Absolutely. You're cooking for Bigfoot. What's on the menu?
Nettles.
Nettles. Good answer.
Well, and you know, there's Bigfoot legends here in Wisconsin, and I can tell you that I've been fascinated by the whole realm of cryptozoology and really taking a look at some creatures that may be mythic totally, may be actual, or a combination. And nettles is not only good for Bigfoot, but good for humans as well. If you're going to be harvesting it, best to wear gloves. But once you dry the nettles or you steam them, the formic acid dissipates, and it's really one of the healthiest things that one can consume.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew you would relate to the Bigfoot thing. I have a Bigfoot story too, but I'm not going to tell it right now. We're running over our time. Let me bring Mary back on. And so, you know, we teased at the beginning of the show the fact that you made a television appearance at the age of 5 years of age. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, throughout my life, I've ended up in the media. I really, for the most part, have not looked for the media attention at all. And in the 1950s was the early days of television. And I happened to live in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And there was a kids show that actually foreshadowed Sesame Street and Kermit. I mean, there were little puppets and all of this. And Billy Johnson was a well-known and well-loved television personality back in the 1950s. And I had the opportunity to be among the children on this children's show. And there you will see, yes, I've loved books and I've loved education. And being on the show, I not only had opportunities to experience television and being on a TV stage, but to connect with this new medium of communication. So I do think that brings us full circle for where are we now? YouTube is really the most viewed, live streamed form of video, of television of sorts. And I'm so thankful to be able to celebrate my 75 and a half year long life of being here on this planet, and knowing that for more than 70 years I've been having opportunities to be in the public eye and public media. And I do think it's a way of being able to reach out and connect. So I have good memories of that earliest time going into a television studio. And in the 70s, I even had my own TV show with broadcast television called the Magic Circle Show, and a radio show called the Circle Magic Show. Well, now we've got Circle Podcasts, we've got YouTube, and all those skills are pivoting and reemerging in some additional ways. And what's really fabulous now is with the proliferation of cameras and other devices, each of us can use film, TV, radio, podcasting, writing, all sorts of ways of being able to connect with each other and hopefully putting out correct and helpful information for education and motivation so that we work together for a healthier planet.
I just have to point out also, you know, here you are, little cute as a bug, 5-year-old Selena reading her book. But where is she reading her book?
In nature.
In nature, outside. Even then, she had to go outside to read her book.
Absolutely. You got it.
Okay, guys, the moment you've been waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for the Arcane Treasures giveaway drawing. Just type hashtag Yoda into the YouTube comments to enter, okay? But before we draw, it's your last chance for those karma points. Spank that like button, subscribe, and poke the bell. You've got 1 minute to type hashtag Yoda into the YouTube comments. Mary, remind our viewers what they could win.
Someone is about to win a full 1 hour Zoom video call with Selena Fox herself, a free ongoing membership to Alexian's Cool Cats community. Hello. And an Alexian Show limited edition fridge magnet. I don't even have one of those, and I'm fancy. And then to enter to win, hey, listen up. All you got to do is head over to the YouTube chat and type hashtag Yoda. Okay, so enter to win right now. Do it as much as you want. Hashtag Yoda into the YouTube chat. Lots of fun stuff, especially that full 1 hour Zoom video call with Selena Fox and being part of Alexian's Cool Cats community. I mean, that's like awesome right there. So hashtag Yoda right now.
Hashtag Yoda. All right, let me turn my speakers off. All right, here we go. Let me share this screen so you can see it happening live. There we go. Before I remove the media. Oh, didn't want to like work together. Okay, so here we go. On your mark, get set. Good luck. Anna Winfrey is the winner. Okay. Not hearing this. Oh, I know why. The Arcane Treasures giveaway. Please email me directly at lordalexian@gmail.com to claim your treasures. I want to express a heartfelt thank you to both my guest and sponsor today. Selena, thank you so much for joining us and making this show so special. If you missed our previous episodes, you can catch the replay, so be sure to check them out. Draken and I will be back next month with a special Red Album concert episode on the 7th of June. Have a wonderful, fabulous day, and we'll see you next month. Boss
Many
blessings.
blessings.